This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
Welcome back. Episode number 86 of the Better Live Than Dead podcast is live now. Live and in living color or in living sound, whatever you want to do. If you want to be a dick about it, you know, we're trying to have some fun and say some fancy words. I'm Ryan Wolf, at Wolf BLTD. Joining me on the line, at MRLG Perez, Mr. Perez. It's been a few days. How are you doing?
Episode 86. I like it. I'm good, man. We're recording this a little late at night. I just got home from watching Captain America Civil War.
Which, a bit of a teaser. We'll talk about that later in the podcast. We're going to get through some other things first. So if you want to vacate the podcast, we'll at least give you a spoiler alert notice. Give it a second, and then we'll start talking. So you guys can dip out. We're not going to be those guys. We're not going to say, come for the sports, stay for the Captain America, and then start talking Captain America at the start, because why would we shoot ourselves in the foot like that? But we missed last week.
That'd be messed up.
It would not be nice at all. Every article I've seen so far, if you click on it, immediately it says spoiler alert. Don't scroll down if you want to know anything about the movie if you haven't seen it yet. So that's kind of what I'm trying to uphold that. But we missed last week. I do apologize for that, but I was quite ill last week. I had a double ear infection and an upper respiratory infection. And I couldn't hear much. I couldn't really talk much. And I'm still sick now, but now it's just developed into a sinus infection. So I guess I'm getting better. I don't feel much better, but I guess I'm getting better.
That's good. I'm glad you're getting better. Yeah, man. It just, last week was one of those weeks where, there was a bunch of crazy situations. You got really sick, and I felt bad because we were going to do a podcast. But then I kind of dipped out because I unfortunately had a death in the family. And so,
and I know I said it to you text message, but I am sorry to hear about that.
Hey, man, listen, it's crazy because I'm at that age where you start to see a whole generation of individuals start to pass away. And it sucks because in the last year, in my dad's side of the family, we've had 5 deaths. And in the last year and a half, altogether, there's been like 6 or 7.
Jeez.
On both sides, which is just, nuts.
Absurd. Absolutely absurd. But unfortunately, that's how things work.
Yeah, man, it's too bad. This was a great guy. Very, very generous guy, very giving guy. He was a music legend in the Spanish world, incredible musician, and he'll be missed. But hey, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I was going to apologize real fast, too. If you hear me sniffling throughout the podcast, when I went to the doctor on Sunday, they told me, take these pills, which cost me $30, which was ridiculous, but whatever. I won't complain too much about that. They said, go buy some some spray, sinus spray for your nose, so when you take the pills, spray it in your nose, and you'll be able to breathe. You may feel a little better. And I did feel a little better, but ever since then, my nose has just been nonstop running. So
that's no fun.
You take the good with the bad. I mean, it's felt like someone's been sitting on my chest for the past couple of days, I would say probably 4 or 5 days at this point. But and it feels like my head's kind of been in a vice grip. I mean, when I went to the doctor, she looked at my ear and she's like, I can see the pressure here. Like, you got a lot of pressure inside your head right now. I'm like, yeah, you should try it out. It sucks.
Under pressure.
I went to a show last week. I saw a friend of the podcast, TJ Luckman, his band Wolf, which they're changing their name, but we will we'll discuss them as the old name at this point because we don't know the new name. They were fantastic, absolutely just phenomenal. Saw him play at the Bug Jar, and I went and couldn't hear anything out of my left ear. Just the entire night was just kind of a wing it, and like my sister was talking to me, couldn't hear a word she was saying.
That's too bad.
I knew I had an ear infection. I didn't know it was that bad.
Right? Why are they changing their name?
It's kind of a new, I guess, a new beginning. They're refocusing and rebranding, which makes sense. I mean, they're going to come out with new music, and I'm sure with TJ, TJ's slowly coming on board. I'm not sure if people have been paying attention, but we've kind of been talking in some rumblings on a thing we call BLTD Music, where if you've seen BLTDsports.com, we revamped the website for the time being because to be completely honest, our old layout broke, and I didn't have the time or the patience while being sick to try to fix it, so I found a new layout for the time being. So we've got a new layout over at BLTDsports.com. We did myself and Tony Fortunato of Fortune Studios did the first music cast. I know TJ's going to be on board with some music stuff. We're going to try to grab some more people to talk entertainment, to talk music, whatever it may be, to add kind of to the spectrum of what we already do with sports, to have a little more fun with the thing, and the music portion certainly is a part of it. Another big thing too, I know it's family, take it for what it's worth if you think it's hokey or something, but we've officially partnered with my sister's photography company, Fortune Photography, and that you can, if you go into an article now, you'll see the logo. You can click on the logo, check out her website or her Facebook page. So if you want to get, a great deal on good photos and get good quality photos, go there. Fortune Photography. She was actually taking photos for TJ's band at the show last week, I think it was at this point. So it's excuse me. It was certainly something that it was certainly something where it makes sense and to partner up, and I know she'll be taking photos at Brian Fallon is playing in Buffalo in about a month and a half at this point. She'll be taking photos for that. I know she's trying to get credentials to take photos for Frank Turner at Canal Side in mid-June as well. So we've got some things in the works. It's taken some time to come together, but we're going to try to do some music reviews, song reviews, album reviews, concert, talk about concerts, talk about anything really in the music world that catches our eye. I mean, it's essentially what we're doing with sports. We want to try to do with more stuff, like I said. So it may not even be very uniform. It may just be something. It may be something where we just kind of run with it and do whatever we feel like it. And I mean, that's what we've been doing so far in almost 1 year of having BLTD be its own personal standalone brand. We've kind of done whatever we wanted to do and had fun with it. It doesn't, nothing else really matters. And we're going to try to continue that with music, with entertainment. Even with us branching out and talking, as we're going to talk about Civil War here in a little bit, just everybody branching out and just don't be confined to your role. If you like to write about sports, write about sports. But if you want to write about music too, write about music. If you want to podcast like what we're going to do tonight, podcast, we're going to talk about some sports. We're going to talk about UFC, Premier League soccer. We're going to talk about baseball, do some updates of playoff races. But then we're going to also talk about an entertainment thing that really excites us both, and we're both very interested in. We're both very passionate about it. So that's really where we're trying to get at this point, is just to expand the brand. I know it was kind of a long-winded version, but essentially we're just expanding the brand as much as possible.
Hey, man, nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, cheap plug real quick, MrLGPerez.com is live once again. I will be updating it very soon with cigar news and cigar ratings until I get Beyond the Smoke and the Smoke Productions finally up. But I finally got MrLGPerez.com back up, and I'll be using that as a platform for, like I said, until my other stuff is up, as a platform for cigar news, cigar ratings, and actually what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to make it more of a lifestyle website. So I'll be doing, beer ratings, booze ratings, bourbon ratings, scotch ratings, scotch reviews, scotch news, bourbon news. I'm going to use it as just an all-around type of men's/women's lifestyle, high-end lifestyle website.
And as soon as you've got that going, that's okay. As soon as you've got that going, let me know. We'll start promoting it.
Oh, it's up. It's up.
No, I'm saying when you start writing articles, let me know, and we'll start. I'll make sure to get that out there to people.
Cool, man. There's some already up.
Very good.
Some of my old stuff, but it's up, and there'll be new stuff on it this week.
I look forward to it. I like reading.
Awesome.
I like reading. I just like reading. I was going to go
go
somewhere with that, and then I just kind of started stuttering and just said I like reading. So that's what we'll go with. I like to read.
I like to read, too.
There you go. Looking at the UFC real fast, we've seen the growing discontent between both Dana White and Conor McGregor in the UFC. Dana White / UFC and Conor McGregor. McGregor said, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, McGregor said still. UFC and Dana White say no way that's happening. Now, last week, Dana White came out and flat out just said, look at McGregor's next fight has to be against the winner of Aldo Edgar, or they're just gonna strip him of the title. First off, do you think that's fair? Second off, do you feel like maybe the UFC is giving McGregor a raw deal because McGregor is trying to manhandle them, so they return the favor by doing something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you don't want to push around one of your bigger stars like that right now. I get you're probably upset that McGregor didn't want to do the whole press tour, but his reasonings for that were sound. But at the same time, he does have a title he needs to defend. So, they got to defend that. But at the same token, if he wants to fight before that, let him fight before that. What's he going to do? He's just going to bring you guys money.
Well, there's also been some rumblings that have been gaining a lot of steam on the internet that we could potentially be seeing Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather coming up.
That would be ridiculously stupid, in my opinion.
How it would happen, I'm not sure. If it would be a straight boxing match, or if it would be a boxing mixed martial arts match, but that to me would be a straight money grab for sure.
Oh, huge money grab. Both those guys would make so much money, it's ridiculous. And the reports that I've seen say it would be straight boxing, which, listen, I don't like Floyd Mayweather at all. But if you're going to go straight boxing against Floyd, you're probably going to lose. What?
I agree. I mean, he's a terrible human being outside of the ring, as we've highlighted multiple times. But there's no doubt that he's got some magic in those hands.
Yeah, and you know what? And what he's done lately, in his last several fights, he's become the master of defense. You know, he hits you just to gain some points when he needs to, but for the most part, he knows how to keep you from hitting him.
Absolutely.
And he's good at that. Now, Conor McGregor, I don't know if he's come across someone who could throw hands like Conor. Got to be honest with you. I watched Manny Pacquiao's last fight. Pacquiao looked a lot better than he did against Floyd. If he had been healthy going against Floyd, he might have handed Floyd a loss. But the last several fights have kind of been handpicked by Floyd Mayweather. And, you know, if it was him and McGregor, it would literally just be a money grab.
A large money grab. But I wanna bounce over to basketball now real quick. Got 4 series left. Well, 3 now. The first one being Cleveland and Atlanta. Cleveland swept the Hawks on Sunday. They finished up. They completed the sweep. Not too surprising there. Cleveland is a pretty good basketball team. Not sure yet if they're good enough to win the title or even get to the finals at this point. But I mean, you got to put your money on Cleveland in the East. You'd have to think. I mean, I'm not too sure myself, but you would have to think that they are the favorites at this point. Then you've got Toronto and Miami. Toronto's up 2-1. They play Monday. That's an interesting series so far because after game 1, it really looked like Miami was on the fast track to winning that series. I mean, it was only 1 game, but Toronto did not look good. And they've come out in the next 2 games since then and put on some impressive performances. The one Western Conference final, or the Western Conference semifinal, I should say. Golden State, Portland, the Warriors lead 2-1. Steph Curry still has not played. Does not look like he will play on Monday against the Trailblazers. But then again, if Golden State loses, I think he'd probably be back for a Game 5. But I'm assuming they want to. I'm assuming they want to keep Steph Curry out as long as possible in that series and just give him enough a stretch run of 8 to 10 games they're going to need him for to win the Western Conference and win the championship again. But right. Lewis, the one series I want to ask you about, because I am highly intrigued, is San Antonio and Oklahoma City, which as of Sunday night on the 8th of May, tied 2-2. Oklahoma City was able to bring that series to essentially make it a best of 3. Do you think the adjustments Oklahoma City they won?
I haven't been, like I said, I went and saw the movie.
111 to 97.
Wow.
Kevin Durant went off with 41 points. Now the question I have for you, do you feel Oklahoma's made enough of a change in this series in 4 games to be able to defeat the Spurs, or do you just think at the end of the day it's the Spurs and they'll find a way to win 4 games and win the series?
Here's my knock on the Spurs. For the most part, they're old. The young guys that are starting to step into their roles are not seasoned yet, seasoned vets. They're not seasoned enough yet to possibly handle the type of pressure being put on them. OKC felt a little disrespected. It's been a contentious series, after like game 2 or game 3. And I think they really want to prove something. Honestly, I think if San Antonio goes back to playing the way that made them extremely effective in the first round and earlier in the season, before the playoffs, I think San Antonio takes the series. But Oklahoma feels like they have something to prove. Kevin Durant, obviously may be leaving. They really want to make that title run while he's there. I would have to say, now knowing that OKC tied it up, I would have to say that it's possible that OKC may take the series.
I think with Oklahoma, the most dangerous thing is not only do they want to make something of this before Kevin Durant most likely leaves in the offseason, but they have nothing to lose. I mean, if they lose the series, it's going to suck, but they have nothing to lose at this point. I mean,
they really don't.
They've made some fantastic adjustments and really found a way to counteract the Spurs game plan and win. I mean, we'll see in the next 3 games what happens. We'll talk more about it as the games develop, but Oklahoma City is seriously giving San Antonio a fight, and a lot of people thought it was going to be a sure thing that it was going to be San Antonio and Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, and that may not happen.
I honestly thought this series would go 7, with San Antonio taking it, but I may have to alter that. It might go 7 with OKC taking it.
Well, speaking of playoffs, a solid transition over the National Hockey League real quick. Just going to highlight some of the latest scores that we have. On Sunday afternoon, the Tampa Bay Lightning completed a 4-1 series win over the New York Islanders. The Islanders played fantastic against Florida in the first round, and then were 3 wins away from the Eastern Conference Finals. But for the second straight year, Tampa Bay wins, heads to the Eastern Conference Finals, 4 games away from representing the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup for the second straight year as well. On Monday, we get 2 Western Conference matchups that could that could determine, with a win from the right team, wins can send us the Western Conference Final matchup tomorrow, which at this point, incredibly unlikely in the eyes of many. You've got the St. Louis Blues hosting the Dallas Stars Monday night. St. Louis leads that series 3-2 after being essentially on death's doorstep against the Chicago Blackhawks to win that series and then move on. Dallas's goaltending has not been great. I mean, the rest of the team has been okay. Jamie Benn's been fantastic as usual, but the goaltending has not been good enough. And, they've got Kari Lettinen and Antti Niemi are decent goaltenders, but neither of them have been able to find a good, solid footing in net, which has caused Lindy Ruff to juggle the goaltenders a little. I mean, it's by no means, the series is not over, but St. Louis obviously in the driver's seat there. And then you look at San Jose and Nashville. San Jose in Nashville looking to move to the Western Conference Finals. Also kind of improbable, but the thing about it, the thing that cracks me up is that Peter DeBoer, their head coach, is known to do well in the first year of his stops at a new team. So I guess it makes sense in the long run that San Jose will be having such a run. But I think Nashville's put up a fantastic fight. Nashville played well against Anaheim, surprised a lot of people, impressed a lot of people as well. But it seems to me like San Jose, I don't know if they're a team of destiny, but they certainly have a lot of things going their way right now, and they're very tough to play hockey against. And I mean, in the playoffs, that's what you want. You want people to hate playing against you. You want to be, you want to have all 4 lines rolling. You want to be scoring as deep as you possibly can. You've got a hot goaltender, Martin Jones, in net. I mean, they've got Logan Couture playing third-line center at this point. That's unfair. With how good that guy is, that's not even fair. But the last one to talk about, which I personally am very intrigued by, because I said before the series started the winner was probably gonna win the Stanley Cup, and it's Washington against Pittsburgh Tuesday night in Pittsburgh. The Penguins lead the series 3-2. Washington's put up a good fight. I think Pittsburgh has too much for Washington to handle. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Washington can come back and win Game 6 and dominate Game 7, and I would not bat an eyelash. But I think right now, and I mean before the series, honestly, I started to kind of feel it. I really think that the Stanley Cup, and I know they're 4 or 5 games away from even potentially playing in the Stanley Cup, 5 wins away from playing in the Stanley Cup. But I think right now at this point, it's Pittsburgh's Stanley Cup to lose. That's how good they've played, and that's how consistent they've played. And at this point, I don't know if there's a team left that can beat Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final.
Going into the playoffs, the Washington Capitals were favored to win. And they looked really great all year. Now, I might be a little biased because I am a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but in the last game the Penguins lost. They looked a little complacent. They didn't look like they were feeling it as urgently as they were before. And in my opinion, in order to get, to move on to Tuesday night, they're going to have to show a little more urgency in how they play. But I agree. I think at this point, the way that they've looked before the last game, they may be the toughest team left in the playoffs. And like you said, I mean, the Stars, they haven't gotten really good goaltending. I honestly thought they would be winning this series. So if they lose the series, I'm going to be really surprised. But at this point, it almost seems inevitable. But no, I agree. I think the title, I think the Cup of Lord Stanley will end up eventually in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And at this point, I don't see why not. But speaking, look at dude, I got to say something, man. It's been a couple of days since we talked, but you are setting me up. You're putting me. You're dishing the biscuit right at the right time for me just to put home a one-timer. Every time I go to move on to sports, you always set me up perfectly. You're 3 for 3 or 2 for 2. I can't do math. Either way, you're doing a good job. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of champions, we're going to talk about the Barclays Premier League right now. Now on Tuesday, on Monday, May 2nd, Tottenham. Chelsea. And boy, what a game that was. It was like an old school WWF wrestling match. And I say WWF because that's when wrestling was actually wrestling. So that should tell you how serious this was. Lots of tripping, lots of nasty tackles, a lot of late tackles, a lot of there was an eye gouging incident. There was lots of pushing and shoving. Now Tottenham took a 2-0 lead early on. And
earlier.
The way it worked out was if Tottenham didn't win out, they had no chance at the title. So if Tottenham didn't win this game, Leicester City would be crowned champions for the first time ever, which we'll get to in just a moment. But as the game went on, Chelsea scored a goal, I want to say, in the 70th-ish minute, around the 70th, and then I think it was the 83rd minute. They tied the game on a gorgeous goal, and that's when it hit me. I was at work watching the game, and I started to honestly tear up a little because I could not believe what was happening. I had gone to lunch at work, and it was 2-0 Tottenham, and I said, okay, Leicester's going to have to win Saturday against Everton. That's whatever. Right. That's okay. And then I come back, it's 2-1.
Which, by the way, they did do.
They crushed them. 4-1, crushed them, absolutely crushed them. But which is good to know because I would not have been very comfortable if Leicester had to go into final game of the season at Chelsea with the title on the line. But Tottenham couldn't break that tie. Leicester City crowned Premier League champions for the first time ever. And for the first time in their 132-year history, Leicester City wins a top-flight English football title. And, dude, I can't even – it's hard for me to put into words because, I mean, I've only been a fan, and I mentioned this in my article. I wrote a nice article about Leicester City this week over at BLTDsports.com. I briefly mentioned how I became a fan. Essentially, if you didn't read the article, shame on you. Go check it out. It's awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. I think I've been told by a few people they really enjoyed it. Essentially, Leicester City's run started when they won the league championship and then moved up to the Premier League, and then it just goes from there. And I mean, before Saturday's game, they had grabbed 99 of 135 possible points. In like the last 41 games or something like that. Last season they finished 7-1-1. This season they've been in first place like 25 of 38 weeks or something like that when the season's all said and done. After spending 20-plus weeks in dead last season, they turn it around and win the championship this season, which is highly incredible. I mean, improbable as well. We may never see a story like this again in the history of any sport, let alone English football. But I met a girl, and her name's Lizzie. And essentially, she was coming back and forth from England every couple months. She'd come and stay for a couple months, go back home, come back, and so on and so forth. And then one of the times she was here, she just flat out asked me, she's, you watch every sport, golf, tennis, basketball, racing, hockey, whatever, everything, but you won't watch soccer. Why? And I honestly had no valid excuse. No valid reason at all. Just, I don't know. I think soccer's dumb. And she goes, just do me a favor. Trust me on this one. Just give it a shot. Give soccer a shot. And I still have, she sent me a book. I don't know. I don't remember if she sent it to me or if she just brought it over. But I have in English, a UK edition of the Idiot's Guide to Watching Football, or Idiot's Guide to Football. And she also had a custom embroidered or a custom printed Leicester City jersey with my name on the back of it sent to me, printed at the team store. And then she said, well, now you have a reason to watch soccer. So then I started following Leicester City. The first year I followed them, they won the league championship and got bumped up to the Premier League. Then the second year was when they pulled off one of the most improbable stories ever when they avoided relegation by winning 7 of their last 9 games, which everyone thought that was incredible then. And I believe they're the 6th franchise ever to win the Premier League, which, so you can tell, usually only the top flight franchises, the ones who put who pay tons of cash to get the best players in the world. And I sometimes, I've been thinking about it, and I don't know if I feel kind of like I'm like a spoiled sports fan, because I know people who have been soccer fans their whole lives, never seen their team win. I'm a soccer fan for 3 years. My team wins 2 championships in 3 years. So, I mean, I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, Louis, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Like, I love every second of it, but I wonder sometimes, because I'm like, I try to think of things from like a like a journalist perspective, like, what can I make of this? And just trying to capture the spirit of the thing at this point, I guess. It's been a fantastic ride. It's been one hell of a season to watch. I mean, if there was any doubt before this year, soccer's got a very strong hold on a very important place in my heart at this point, because I just don't I don't want to miss soccer. I enjoy it thoroughly.
I'm gonna say this. In high school I played soccer. I love soccer. I mean, I enjoy the game of soccer. I don't follow it like you do. I don't have necessarily a favorite team, but I enjoy the athleticism that goes into soccer. I enjoy the strategy that goes into soccer. It's very much like a chess game. There's a lot of little things going on all the time that the average person may not see. And there's a lot of people that I know that refuse to watch soccer and don't like it. And honestly, I think it's a little bit out of not being knowledgeable enough about the sport. Yeah, there are times when it might end in a shootout, which is kind of awesome. And there might be times where if there is no shootout, it might end like in a 0-0 draw. I've seen that. But you know what you see a lot of times? You see plays where the goalie makes some really fantastic saves. The passing can be very intricate. There's just a lot of little things that go into making the game really, really cool. And if you're listening to us and you're sitting there saying, oh, these guys talking about soccer, it's boring. It's just a bunch of guys running up and down the field for 90 minutes. Think about this. You run up and down the field for 90 minutes? Think about how in shape those guys have to be to do what they do. You see, bigger soccer players, chunky soccer players? No, you don't. 'Cause those guys be running their butts off. Did you do that? Probably not. Give it a watch.
I get exhausted watching soccer sometimes.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Like, I was able to do it in high school. I was in great shape in high school. I played 4 sports a year in high school. Now I'm fat, and I couldn't do it. And I appreciate the fact that they can.
I was tired watching. I got tired watching Leicester Everton, but that's because I drank half a bottle of champagne by myself.
Your celebration, your own little celebration.
Yeah, I went to Ridge Donut Cafe with my sister and her husband. We got some donuts.
Excellent. Good donuts.
I thought it was a great idea. And then best donuts I've had in Rochester, Ridge Donut Cafe, no doubt about it, on Portland Avenue, I think it is. No doubt about it. They're fantastic. But then we got a bottle of champagne and had mimosas because you can't go wrong with those.
No.
And I love mimosas so much, like I said, I drank half the bottle of champagne.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. But back to the original point here. If you don't like soccer,
people to go watch soccer.
Well, if you don't like soccer, here's my pitch. Give it a shot. Because, I mean, even if you don't like the top flight teams, I mean, again, Leicester City's not going to happen every year. There's no doubt about it. It will not happen every year. It may not happen every decade. It may not happen every quarter century, half century, every 100 years. I mean, we made our lifetimes. But give it a shot. Because that's all I did. Just gave soccer a shot. Just sat down, put all, thoughts aside and just soaked up the game. Just watched it for what it was. And learn to enjoy it. And even when Leicester City was bad, I still enjoyed soccer because you're getting to watch some of the best athletes in the world succeed at what they do, and it's really cool to watch. I mean, for me personally, it's really cool to watch Riyad Mahrez or Jamie Vardy develop a play. I watch a play develop of one of those guys because it's almost like you can kind of see something happening and then it just happens, and you're like, oh my god, everything happens. So fluid. There's so much fluidity in the game of soccer that things happen. It's almost like you can't predict it, but then after it happens, you're like, yeah, I totally saw that happening. I guess is the best way to put it. Like you see a fantastic goal happen, you're like, how the hell did that happen? And then you watch the replay, and you're like, oh, I totally watched that. That absolutely was going to happen. Yeah, just watching it develop.
There's a reason why. Outside of the United States, it's the biggest sport in the world. We call it soccer. We really call it football, and it's actually football. Like they actually use their feet.
It all depends who I'm talking to, because some people I call it football, some people I call it soccer.
I understand. I'm just
saying.
saying.
If they know I'm talking about it, I'll say football. But if they don't know what I'm talking about, I'd just say soccer. But, I want to move on to baseball now. I just saw some news came across the Twitter bots here. Colorado Rocky shortstop Jose Reyes has been suspended. I guess suspended without pay or with pay, pending the investigation of his domestic assault against his wife. And he's been out of baseball for a little while now. And now they're saying John Heyman is reporting that his actual suspension may drop very soon, and it's expected to be 60 or more games. So Major League Baseball, good on you for not messing around with domestic assault and domestic violence. Set a good precedent, and make a statement, make your voices be heard. Let players know that you're not going to deal with this. Even if players don't get convicted, they've done their own investigation, and they feel very confident in the fact that they will suspend him, and it will be justified. And the stories, I don't know if Perez, if you've seen the stories out of what happened with Jose Reyes and his wife, but it's not pretty. And the only reason he's getting away with it is because she won't talk to the police. But obviously they have police reports and medical records, all that stuff. They can draw their own conclusions. I mean, 9 times out of 10, drawing your own conclusions on something, you're probably right. So, I mean, it's something where, again, Major League Baseball is taking a stand. I mean, it's kind of another thing, too, like with all the recent steroid busts, which we're going to be getting a few more, apparently, coming up here shortly. Ex-Los Angeles Dodgers second baseman, now Miami Marlins second baseman, D. Gordon, busted, suspended 80 games. Major League Baseball is slowly but surely changing. I mean, with improved drug testing, and I know it's apples to oranges, but improved drug testing and actually suspending players and holding them accountable for being terrible human beings. That's fantastic. That's what I like to see out of baseball.
You know, in this case, I feel like the investigation was done, that there was evidence that actually showed that something really did happen, and in that case, they're going to suspend the guy for who knows how many games, and I applaud that. That's very good.
It's almost something where they're very forward thinking with it, because obviously no major sport wants to be the first one to do something drastic like that. But with being so drastic like that, Major League Baseball may set a precedent for the National Hockey League, for the National Football League, and for other professional sports, to say, hey, look, you know, yeah, you're a talented player, like no doubt about it. Jose Reyes is a talented player, but talent should not oversee the fact that you assaulted you domestically assaulted your spouse or your wife, girlfriend, whatever. Maybe.
Right. So good on them for doing this.
I know you and I have had some clashes on stuff like this in the recent past with people like Patrick Kane, but I know both you and I agree that domestic assault, domestic violence is not cool. And if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna beat up your wife or girlfriend,
someone should beat you up.
Well, that for sure. But you need to be punished accordingly. If you don't, even if you don't go to jail, even if you jail or not, you need to be punished accordingly, because you're a professional athlete. You need to be held to a higher standard. You just can't do that. I mean, normal people can't do that, but athletes shouldn't be doing that. But a question I wanted to ask you real quick before we move over to some other stuff. I know you're a Yankee fan, but I know at heart you're a baseball fan. And you saw past couple days, David Price had another poor outing. Very, very poor outing against the Yankees. This season, in 41 1/3 innings, he's 4-1, which is really good, obviously. But he has a 6.75 ERA, and his velocity on his fastball's dipping bad. I mean, I know the gigantic contract the Red Sox signed him to has an opt-out after 2 years, but at this point in time, if you're putting on a different hat here, should Red Sox fans be worried about David Price?
Only when you get to the playoffs. I think, it's a new team, it's a new system. You have to adjust for those things. I really just think it's the beginning of the year. He's playing, in some weather that he's not used to playing in right now. I wouldn't be surprised if by, early summer, or when it starts to really warm up in spring, I wouldn't be surprised if you see his velocity start to return, and that he makes a little bit of a turnaround. I mean, 4-1's not bad. The ERA is terrible, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see it start to turn around.
I mean, looking at the splits here, it's ugly. I mean, in April he had 5 starts, 5.76 ERA, and 2 starts in May he's 1-1 with a 9.26 ERA, 15 hits, 12 earned runs, and 11 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, it's not good. I mean, it's just they were talking about maybe an arm slot thing, but we just got to keep an eye on it and see what happens from here. But excuse me, certainly That could be big. I mean, right now the Red Sox are a half game out of first in the East. Excuse me. If David Price can turn it on and pitch even half as good as he's been pitching, the Red Sox could run away with the East. But I mean, the offense has been great, but the pitching has certainly been. I mean, from guys like Price, is a lot more to be desired. But another thing I want to ask you about. I was just reminded of this as I was looking at my cell phone here. 30 games into the season. So we've got a pretty good sample size of what's going to happen here. And the Chicago Cubs right now are playing .800 baseball. They're 24-6 after 30 games. They have a 7.5 game lead. It's, as of recording time, it's May, we'll say May 8th. I mean, it's really May 9th. It's 12:30 in the morning. But May 8th, as of May 8th, 7.5 game lead in that division. Is there any way is there any way right now that the Cubs can be stopped? I know it's early. There's still 132 games for the Cubs to be played, but is there any way to stop this team?
Honestly, the way that they've been looking right now, I would say the only thing that could derail them are injuries. Because as of right now, they're looking phenomenal.
I mean, you even mentioned injuries, but you get a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who was supposed to be a big part of that offense. He gets hurt, and they just keep playing on. I mean, and the crazy part about the Cubs is that the bats have not come around. I mean, I'm just looking here right now, and you've got like Jason Hayward, big offseason signings, batting .212. Like, okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he needs to warm up.
The pitching staff looks real good, led by Jake Arrieta. John Lester has a 1.58 ERA right now. Jason Hamill's a 1.85. I mean, John Lackey's at 4.02, but John Lackey's been pitching good, effective. He's not been pitching good. He's been pitching effective. So yeah, the Cubs are just blowing everybody out of the water at this point in time, and just when you think they're going to lose, they find more ways to win. So that's something we'll keep an eye on as well. But I want to move on now to entertainment stuff. Sorry for that quick delay there. I was thinking. And everybody in podcast land, here's the point of the podcast where we let you know the following content contains a boatload of spoilers. So if you want to dip out now, thank you for joining us. It's been fun. We'll be back same time next week. Follow us on all the social media platforms and all that. But if you want to stick around and listen, we'll give you 5 seconds to 5 seconds to vacate the premises, and then we will start talking about what we want to talk about. So we'll count down. We'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So now,
there we go.
Thank you for sticking around. Those of you who are still here, if you left us, maybe someday you'll come back and listen and join us. Right now, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about Marvel's Captain America: Civil War. Came out last weekend. Made an assload of money, just ridiculous amounts of money. The movie itself, I want to actually ask you, Lewis, first what you thought, because most of the time you hate everything that we talk about. So I'm very I've been sitting around waiting to hear what you have to say about this movie.
No, I enjoy a lot of the Marvel comic book ones. I enjoy a lot of I enjoy a majority of the comic book movies out there. Certain movies I don't like. Obviously, I did not like the latest Star Wars. I thought that was a steaming pile of garbage. There are some points and counterpoints I can make about that movie. The new one coming out called Rogue One, they are altering the story and how the rebels got the plans for the Death Star. That kind of annoys me. But as far as this movie goes, Captain America: Civil War, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. They really concentrated on the conflict between, Captain America and how he thought things should be, and Tony Stark, who is leading to get the Sokovia bill passed. And in the comic books, that's how it was. It wasn't necessarily because of that particular storyline like they used in the movies, but it was Captain America and basically Tony Stark against the registration bill. Tony Stark was for the registration bill, where all the superheroes had to say who they actually were. Captain America was against it. So in this movie, obviously, they used what happened in Avengers to really set up this particular storyline for this movie. I enjoyed the conflict. There was some good humor in it. Whenever you have Paul Rudd playing Ant-Man, that's awesome. I enjoyed the fact that they showed the other side of Ant-Man when he used to be Giant Man, and he went to the big form. That was pretty darn cool. There was a lot of really cool things in this movie that I enjoyed.
I was a very, 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 very big fan of the movie. I thought it did a fantastic job of furthering the universe, which is exactly what we want. I mean, you don't want a bad movie because it'll really throw things off. Then again, I don't know if Marvel can make a bad movie, knock on wood, but I liked the moral in Captain America. It was fantastic. I think they did a great job telling the story, and how the movie ended, I thought was pretty good. It really kind of left on a cliffhanger, but it set so much up, and I really enjoyed Black Panther. I thought that his debut into the MCU was fantastic. I was horrified to see what they would do with Spider-Man, and then when I saw the movie, I instantly knew the Spider-Man movie they put out is going to be amazing. Not only because I think Spider-Man is going to be a very strong character, but I really think that putting Iron Man in that movie is going to be fantastic. And just the way that they told the story of how essentially Iron Man found Spider-Man and made him better, and then how Spider-Man just acted the whole movie, in the fight scenes where he's just nonstop talking and just very jittery and nervous, and they're like, "You're not supposed to do this," and he's like, "It's just great. It's just fantastic." I feel like they nailed that. They nailed Spider-Man, and that to me was one thing that made the movie even better than I thought it was going to be, because if you screw that up, I mean that's real bad. And I like how the movie I like how the movie ended with like I said, with Tony Stark back at the Avengers compound, and the Stan Lee appearance, which was amazing.
Tony Stank.
Yeah, Mr. Stank. But I think I liked the cut scenes with Captain America and then Bucky and Black Panther, and him essentially saying, bring it on, I'm ready for it, because that gives you kind of a glimpse into what the Black Panther movie is going to be about. And then we got the Spider-Man cutscene, which, again, that was, I think they nailed it. Like I think in every facet they nailed this movie, and they set up so much more, which is exactly what you needed to do with this movie.
Yeah, no, I appreciate how they set up Spider-Man Homecoming. I liked the fact that he obviously had some, Stark tech to help out with the new suits, and I like how they brought back the spider signal. Now, back in the day, Spider-Man used to have this signal that he would flash on criminals who were about to do something bad to let them know he was there, and they would usually stop doing what they were doing and run away. So, you kind of see that, and you see kind of the Stark emblems on the side, kind of like with the suit. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. A lot of people may not know Black Panther's background, but he was once part of the Secret Avengers, and that's kind of what they're doing with the whole thing with Captain America now being kind of on the outside, and in Wakanda. You're right, the introduction of the Black Panther was very well done. The actor was excellent. They really, really nailed the Black Panther in this movie. From the suit to his strength and speed to everything. It was very, very cool. I did like during the big battle scene where Spider-Man was wrapping the webbing around Giant Man / Ant-Man's legs, and he was like, "Did you guys ever see Empire Strike Back with the big walkie things on the frozen planet?" Which was exactly what they did on the planet Hoth with the AT-ATs. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed Spider-Man. When Winter Soldier went to hit him and he caught his arm, he was like, "Dude, you got a metal arm? That's pretty cool." Like, they really did a good job with Spider-Man, and hopefully they can keep that going.
And I didn't mean to overlook it, but I agree with you about Paul Rudd as well. Paul Rudd is some people I talked to about Ant-Man were kind of sour on it because they didn't like how it was presented or whatever it may be. But I feel like with a secondary character like Paul Rudd, you need that. You need that comment. And
go ahead.
I say when he met Captain America and he's shaking his hand and he goes, "Oh my God, you're Captain America," and he shakes his hand and he goes, "I'm shaking your hand. I'm shaking your hand too long."
Right. And
just the one-liners.
Right. And that's what you got a lot of in Ant-Man with him.
Yeah.
And personally, if you didn't like the movie Ant-Man, I don't know, I have no other way to say it, you're an idiot. That movie.
I mean, honestly, at this point, if you don't like Marvel movies, I'm not sure. Again, everybody has a different taste. I've heard some subjective arguments from people about they don't like this specific movie because of that or whatever it may be. But as a whole, if you don't like the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, like the movies, I don't know what your problem is.
Dude,
because you look at
phenomenal.
You look at like what DC has done and what they're trying to do, and then you see what Marvel has done and what Marvel's going to do. And even if you don't like the characters, you don't like the story, you have to admit, Marvel has done a fantastic job building the cinematic universe and cinematic universe. I feel like I didn't say that right. But it's something that it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to be fantastic. And I feel like they can't do any better than the last movie, and then they always outdo themselves.
Yeah, this movie was terrific.
I can't wait to go see it again.
And personally, I get DC is trying to copy some of that magic. I know a lot of people who did not like Batman versus Superman. And to those people, once again, I say you're an idiot. That movie was really well done. There were some things that were kind of over the top and kind of cheesy. But it's a comic book movie. It kind of have to go over the top, kind of cheesy. I enjoyed that movie thoroughly, and I get why they did what they did. I'm hoping Wonder Woman is going to be awesome. I like the girl who's playing Wonder Woman. I think they did a good job with her. She was one of the shining stars in that movie. But as far as the Marvel Cinematic Universe goes, they've caught lightning in a bottle. They're doing some really cool stuff. I'm looking forward to the next several movies. Doctor Strange should be fun.
Absolutely. I'm very intrigued with that. I'm very intrigued with that film. I want to see how Benedict Cumberbatch does. I think he'll be great. But I
think he will be too.
I'm just glad that this movie lived up to the hype.
I agree.
I would have been so bummed out if it sucked.
I'm glad that Marvel and their movie house Disney finally have the rights back to Superman. Now they can do what Spider-Man. Now they can do what they want to with Spider-Man. Although I enjoyed the last two. The ones with Tobey Maguire, the first one was good. The last two were garbage on a stick. But the last two I thought were excellent. It's a shame they're not going to continue that story arc because they had some cool stuff coming that they're not going to be able to do now. But I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with Spider-Man. And the next one I'm looking forward to because it's going to be the next X-Men First Class movie, Age of Apocalypse. And Apocalypse is one of my favorite villains ever.
The one thing that I am very pleased with is how they introduced, we talked about this a minute ago, but how they introduced Spider-Man and Black Panther means we don't have to have an origin film, an origin story. We just get a good movie, a good Spider-Man movie, a good Black Panther movie. We don't need an origin story every time for every character. There are some questions that are unanswered, which will probably get answered in like Spider-Man or get answered in Black Panther, but we have the general idea at this point.
Right. Yeah.
For those who don't know like Spider-Man's story or his gimmick, they'll probably want to wonder why he's living with his aunt. Stuff like that. Like why is this? Right. Why is this? Why is that? And I'm sure they'll glaze over it, but it's not going to be uncle dying or whatever it may be. Like that's not how it's going to work.
Right.
By the way, what did you also think that when they showed Tony Stark's parents dying that they were going full Batman?
I did for a second, but I knew because the main antagonist kept saying he wanted to see the Empire be torn apart from inside. I figured that that's where they were going with it, with the Winter Soldier when he was Winter Soldier killing his parents. I kind of figured that's where they were going to go with that.
I loved it, man. Like I said, I thought
that was a good fight scene.
Dude, all the fights in that movie were great.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thought that was fun.
I'm sorry, I'm reading something. I clicked on Facebook real fast and I saw an article, comicbook.com, which if you want to read anything about any comic book stuff, comicbook.com is a place to go. They have fantastic articles. And it's, I'm just looking at something right now about what's the deal with the Scarlet Witch and Vision. Because that was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, but I believe in the comic books they actually get together.
Yeah, but as we've seen, the comic books don't always mirror the movies, so that might be something where they go.
You're absolutely correct. If this movie had mirrored the comic books, Captain America would be dead right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
At the end of the original Civil War storyline, Captain America gets killed.
Wasn't it Captain America dies, then Bucky becomes Captain America, and then after a while, Captain America comes back to life?
Bucky becomes Captain America. The guy who plays the Falcon becomes Captain America. Matter of fact, I think in the comic books, he's currently Captain America. So yeah, that would have been that. Then yes, he comes back from the dead again. It's the comic books. They kind of all always come back from the dead.
I mean, that's just their gimmick, you know?
Yeah, when you have a beloved character like that, you can't keep them dead long.
No.
They killed Peter Parker. He's back.
I think I'm starting to run out of gas over here, man.
Hey, man, we can wrap it up when you're ready.
Okay, I think we might have to because I'm like I said, I'm running out. I'm hitting E. I just kind of hit a blank spot and was like, oh, I'm shutting down over here. It's been a good podcast, episode 86 of the BLTD Podcast. Feels good to be back. Next weekend we might be able to do one in person because I'm moving out to Greece on Friday. So
Are you down?
We might be able to do this in person. Maybe.
I'll be down. Even if you got to settle in for a week, 2 weeks from now, we do it in person. I'm down.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna rush stuff because I know next weekend's pretty busy. Got some family stuff happening on Sunday. Obviously Saturday. Saturday actually, our buddy Brayton Wilson from BLTDsports.com, also of the BLTD Podcast and BLTD Extracast, our coworker, our colleague, I believe he's coming out to Rochester to probably do a car cast and definitely get a garbage plate because he's never had a garbage plate before. So I think we're going to do that. So maybe we can get together. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But follow Lewis on Twitter at Steve T's. That's my go-to place, man.
Gotta always take him to the one of the original spots when it was back in the
I've
day.
never been to the original Nick Tahoe's.
And maybe we should take you down to the original Tahoe's that Saturday.
Well, maybe I'll feel comfortable if I go with you. I don't feel too comfortable.
Yeah,
I'm not. It's not my gimmick, man. I don't like going down in the city. I don't know why. It's just not my thing. I just.
BBT's is just as viable as location, though.
I like hanging out in the suburbs.
Back in the day, that was also a Tahoe. So.
Yeah, man, and it's run by the family, and it's still delicious as all hell. But
yes.
we're gonna hit up some garbage plates, do some podcasting. Hopefully, and we'll move forward from there. But follow Lewis on all social media platforms at MRL. Follow me on Twitter at WolfBLTD, BLTDsports.com, Facebook.com/BLTD Podcast, and Twitter at BLTD Sports. As usual, my friends, the song remains the same. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
Thanks again for tuning in, my friends. We'll catch you sometime soon. And hey, if you got any thoughts about Captain America, give us a shout. We just tossed our handles out. We'll be more than happy to chat.
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think, and have a fantastic evening, my friends.